Hey there, welcome to the table. So we're going to take a crack at a game I've never played before. This game is called Comancheria. I did the, the playbook playthrough, reviewed the rules. There's a lot to this game. Let's just get that out of the way. Is it super complex? No, it is not. There's just a lot to the game. This is much less complex, I think, than even like a D-Day Omaha Beach, but yet I'm still nervous because there's just a lot to it. There's a lot of steps, if you will. Now, I've never played any games made by this particular designer, Joel Toppin. I don't even know if I pronounced his name correctly. My apologies if I didn't. One thing I can say, and I never played Navajo Wars, which is apparently, this is like a sequel to it. The player's aids seems to be fantastic. We're going to put it to the test, of course, but they seem to be absolutely fantastic. And even in the designer's notes, which is at the back of the rule book somewhere, or maybe it's in the back of the playbook, he even flat out says that his goal was to be able to condense all the rules into the player aid so players can just play from the player aid and never need to use the rules. Brilliant. If I wasn't holding the camera, I would give 2 thumbs up. So there you go, two thumbs up. If I could get my toes into the picture, I'm not quite as nimble as I used to be, I would do that. That is brilliant. Everybody should be doing that. Okay, so normally I would do, hey, we're gonna do setup and talk, and then the gameplay starts on video 2. I'm not doing that. We're going to start playing. I do have to go through setup real quick, so you may have to fast forward a little bit, but we're going to start playing. There's not a lot to talk about with the setup of this game. So in the rule book, near the end are the scenarios. There's Onto the Plains, which is the easy scenario that we're going to start with. And just so you understand, the campaign, which is like 4 historical periods, this only covers 1 historical period. The campaign covers like all 4 that are provided in the game. The campaign is, it starts the exact same way. So we're actually playing the campaign for all intents and purposes. It's just that when we hit the victory conditions, we would stop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just see how the playthrough goes. I have a feeling I'm going to play miserably. From my understanding of reading the rules and understanding what's going on, this game requires you to understand the mechanics very well, I think, in order to be good. Like knowing when to do the right things and when not to do. And I can't quite say that I have all that figured out. If you make an action, there's like 100 things that happen. And I think you have to really understand all those mechanics and how they interact in order to really know which action is the right one. So anyways, this is the one we're setting up. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through this setup real quick. And you know what? I will do a second video for playthrough because that's what people are used to, so they can skip all this. But if you're interested in the setup, let's go through that. And that way I don't feel pressure to hurry up. So we'll go through that real quick, and then I'll just hit stop and go, and we'll start again. So first things first, when you're getting out your components, let's talk about the ones that don't go on the game board at the start. You're going to have these development decks, and they're going to have a Roman numeral. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And they're different colors. They're very easy to decipher. The thing you're going to want to do is there are 3 of them in development deck number 1 that have red numbers at the bottom. Those start the game. So they start in play. And all the other ones just get shuffled. If you're playing only this first historical period, you're only going to use development deck 1. So each development deck goes with each historical period. So you have these historical period cards. There are 4 of them. These are the 3 that are not in the game, but you can see it goes from 1750, 1800, 1850, so forth. Okay, so just set all of those aside. And then the 1 historical period card that we start the game with, it's going to go right here where it says history card. Now, you're going to notice on the game board that way up there where my finger's pointing is the development deck. So this deck that you see here is supposed to be up there. The problem is my old man eyes can't see that far. It's a really long reach from a table perspective. And yes, I'm blessed with a large table. I know not everybody has that problem. It's a first world problem. But for me, it's easier to just reach if it was over here. So I just put it there. And then the 3 cards that are in play, you can see there's a 1, 2, 3. So for the 3 cards that are in play, they're just right here in front of me. So they're really close. So we as the camera and me with my bad eyes, we can read these. These are very important. You need to read these and understand them. And these are actually what has me the most nervous, because there's a lot of rule changes and things that happen inside of these cards. Okay, so the rest of the cards. We have here, obviously this one's face up. We have a war deck, and so go ahead and shuffle those. And I'm just going to do a light shuffle. I've already shuffled them for the playthrough I did with the playbook. So there's not much more we need to do. And then those go here, and they're just at the edge of where I can't read anymore. So I might grab those. Then as far as other cards go, we have these culture cards. And for those of you who've played this game before, I would really like some feedback on this. The rules say that we're supposed to organize them where we have level 1 on the top, and then level 2, and then level 3. And what I did initially was I actually shuffled like all the level 3s, and then I shuffled all the level 2s. So it was like a whole mix of things. But I think after further review, I think it's supposed to be, this is the tactics deck, and this is the horsemanship deck. Like each deck is supposed to be a separate thing. So in the past, this would have been tactics on top with horsemanship on level 2, and then maybe diplomacy at level 3, right? That's what I had initially. But I think so I changed it, and I think this is the right way to go. And the thing that made me, so the rules don't say what to do. It just says make sure the level 1s are on top, level 2. It doesn't say necessarily to shuffle the level 3s and shuffle the level. So I think that was my first clue that this is the correct way. And then the other one is if you look at this diplomacy card, it doesn't do anything, which means that you're spending a culture point for nothing. So that means then that the level 2 and level 3 diplomacy cards must be pretty badass. And so it only makes sense that this is a worthless card if there's valuable cards underneath it. And if these cards underneath it are just random, then this becomes the most worthless card ever. So those were the 2 clues that made me think this is the way you do it. And of course, maybe I should just have watched somebody else's playthrough and I could have gotten that answered. But as far as the rules go, that was the one ambiguous thing for me. I also have another ambiguous thing that I would like people to answer, and please spoil me on it, even though we haven't encountered it yet in the game. When I'm transitioning from one historical period to another, how do I get the East involved? And this is something I know that's new for you guys, so let's talk about this real quick. This game has these square boxes, so let's look at the game board real quick. The square boxes, this is considered the South. The yellow one up there is considered the West. And then you have a blue one here, which is the East. And then you have a gray one up there, which is the North, okay? They could consist of various enemies. For this scenario, we start off with the South being Spain, and they are green. And then the West is also Spain, and they're yellow. The same country, but just 2 different enemies. And then the East is blank. And my question for the veterans of the game is when I do my victory check after the end of this scenario, and let's say I'm moving to the next historical period, when does this fill in? When do you put something here? Is that driven by the development cards and I just haven't encountered it yet? That's the part that I'm puzzled by. Because obviously if you start at the 3rd historical period, this is filled in from the start of the game. But what do you do when you're starting the game at history period 1 and then you're progressing through? I see nothing in the rulebook that tells me I'm supposed to fill that in with something later. So anyways, that's it for now. So yeah, north, south, east, west. Those square boxes represent enemies, okay? The gray, by the way, is usually, it might be all the time, but I haven't played the game enough to tell you that. That gray up there is tribes, okay? The other three are going to be countries, like Texas or America or Spain, and I don't know if we have England or not. I don't think we do. Nope. So Texas and America are the two other countries. Oh, and then there's Mexico. So Mexico comes into the game too at some point. And so you're wondering, okay, so that means that like south here can switch from Spain to Mexico. So something in the game causes that to happen, but I can't find anywhere in the rule books that explains how that happens, okay? But for now, that's all we need to know. This is solid. We're going to be able to play a whole game of scenario 1 here without having to worry about how these change, okay? All right, every circular space represents territory. Now, it's not to scale, so don't worry about that. But every circular space represents territory, and that territory has things in it. There is this thing called a stack limit, and basically it's either going to have your settlement, another tribe settlement, or an enemy settlement, or nothing, right? Those are the 4 possible states. And so the rule book explains that we're going to have tribes, which are these. Tribes are gray, okay? The gray represents the north. So notice the color connection. So north is gray, the tribes are gray, okay? So and then over here, this is the out of play section. It's hard to read because I have it all covered up. But this is out of play, but they're there for us. So you can see here real quick that these are yellow settlements for the west, because the west is the yellow color. And then the green settlements are for the south, and then the blue settlements are for the east. And right now the east is nobody, so we're probably not going to use these for a long, long time, okay? We do have these G tokens that start out of play, and you can see here there's another tribe token there as well. Okay, so I hope I didn't lose anybody yet. I might be bouncing around a little bit, but just understand that these circular areas are territory, and they can only really ever have one of each entity in it. It's either a settlement or a tribe or you, or nothing. Now, the enemies also are represented here, and then these are what's called instruction chits. I sometimes call them action chits, so you might hear me say that, but they're numbered A, B, C, D, E, F from top to bottom, and that's what you want to do. Make sure they're all set up A through F. The gray, which represents the enemy tribes, so those are other Indians. The gray G is in the second space right up there, so let me zoom in here. So you can see that that's the operations track, okay? G starts in the second space, and then in the top space is the operations token and the passage of time token. Those are both very important for regulating the flow of the game. So just to give you an understanding, the passage of time token is going to, so what we're going to do is we're going to take actions, and then eventually there's going to be a passage of time. Okay, passage of time. Think if you've ever played a coin game, it's equivalent of like winter, you know, during like the Revolutionary War game, or an epoch in Pendragon, if you watch my series on that. So the passage of time is when things sort of reset, right? Your shaman or your medicine leader, you know, the head of your tribe dies and it passes on to the next guy, or, you know, things like that happen. That's called passage of time. All right. Now the passage of time token is eventually going to be moving down as well. And at some point, when a passage of time occurs and that passage of time token is far enough down the track, we're going to do what's called a victory check. And at that point, if we don't meet the victory conditions for that period of time, which is actually written right here on the card, victory check objective, ding, ding, ding. If we don't meet that victory condition, the game's immediately over. If we do meet it and we're playing the big campaign, then we would move to the next historical period. Okay, so that's actually what triggers the end of the historical period. So the that left token is going to, it's going to go down the operations track, you know, possibly many times, before, while the passage of time token is also moving down. And just to give you an idea, the operations token is going to move down until there's a passage of time. When that passage of time occurs, the passage of time token will move down one single space. Okay, that should give you a flavor. So then the operations token would move down again. We'd have a passage of time. Then that passage of time token will move down one more single space. So eventually, that passage of time token will move down far enough that it actually does end for good. So I hope I made sense there. I apologize if I didn't. It'll make more sense as we play. Okay, another thing. So the scenario tells you where these tribes go. And in this particular scenario, or even for the full campaign, when you start off, there's no settlements for Spain anywhere. It's either an enemy tribe or it's blank. Now you see these little bison tokens. That's just, you know, herds of bison. You're going to hear me say buffalo, and I'm sure some nerd is going to tell me there's a difference between the two. I don't care. They mean the same thing for me. And so this bison token does not mean that there's a settlement there. In fact, there's nothing here. The fact that there's a herd of bison is just, they're just there eating the grass. You know, there's no actual settlement. It is possible a bison token can be with a settlement, but that's not the case at the start of the game. Okay, so these tribes are going to be in various locations. It is fixed, so if you were to end this game and start again, it'll still be in the same place. I don't think there's anything bad about that. I just, you know, for your knowledge, there's nothing random about this start. Everything that you see here is a specific thing, and we filled up every single space except for this gray space there, which is the Palodoro Canyon and the reservation. Those two don't get filled. And then, of course, the blue east space doesn't get filled per the scenario instructions. In the available resources, you're going to have food, trade goods, captives, guns, and then also horses. I kept them in here because there's a whole bunch of them. Instead of trying to pile them up on the board, they're just sitting there so I can pull them out of there. Okay, a couple more things to understand. The green enemy tends to migrate along the green lines, okay? They never use dotted lines. We use dotted lines, okay? So Indians use dotted lines. The Europeans don't. So this particular enemy will migrate along this, and this will probably be one of the first areas they would try to settle or conquer or whatever. Okay, and then the blue enemy goes along the blue lines. The yellow enemy goes along the yellow lines. They don't, as far as I understand, they're not going to encroach each other. So they each have their own like little territories they're trying to control. So I hope that helps. And then the last thing is if you're confused about some things, this is called the Rio Grande, and you can see that it's got the green die here of a 6, and everything that's green is the Rio Grande. So it's color coordinated. If you're unable to see colors, it's written on it, although it does get covered up, so that would be very painful for you. And then you can see there's a 1 through 6 on them. And when you're reading in the instructions, for example, it tells you that these two tribes start on Rio Grande 5 and 6. Actually, 1, 2, 5, and 6. So that's, let's actually find it. Right here you can see Rio Grande 1, 2, 5, and 6. So the tribes would start there. Now, as you may guess, because it's got a picture of a die, when I roll a die, because I'm impacting some random area, if I roll a 6, it's going to impact Rio Grande, and each section has its own die number. It also has its own color. So you can see that the Brazos, Colorado are the brown, and then the Red River are these orange, and then Lower Arkansas is the blue, and then way up there is the purple, which is Upper Arkansas. So everything, there's 6 sections, and then every section has 6 territories, okay? It's very elegantly laid out. It's very mathematical in that kind of way. So there's 36 spaces on the board, basically. There's just going to be various times in the game where you're going to roll a die and it's going to impact a space. Okay, that's really what it's for. And just understand, again, reminder, we move along dotted lines and solid lines. They only move along solid lines, and they can only move along their colors. I'm pretty sure that the tribes can move like we do, because they're just enemy tribes, so they got the same movement capabilities we have. Okay, so did I cover everything? No, not quite. So over here, we have culture points. We start at 3, and military points also start at 3. If at any point in the game, both of these are at 0, it doesn't matter what scenario we're in, we lose. So there is sort of like an immediate loss condition that we have to always avoid. If my culture goes down to 0 and I need to lose another culture, I will instead lose 2 military. If my military goes down to 0 and I were to lose another military, I would instead lose 2 culture. So don't think that because you're at 0, you can all of a sudden do things that cause you to lose culture. So that's something to keep in mind. This is movement points, and when we do our actions, we use these to keep track of how many movement points we have. So this is going to constantly be going up and down for us. These are available enemy action points. They start at 0, but they do move up and down as the enemy uses action points. And then this is our action points, and we actually start with 1. Action points are weird in this game. You got to erase everything you understand about action points. They have some similarities to what we're used to, but they're not what you think. Like when it's your turn, you're not spending action points unless you do a specific action that spends points. I know it sounds crazy, but trust me, it'll make sense when you see it. Okay, so after setting everything up, we then move over to here. Like I said, it's easier to show you what is not on the board. What is not on the board are the green and yellow settlements, or these are actually war bands. So this is for Mexico. You can see these are all Mexico, green and yellow. And then I have some American ones, right? And you got American, this is actually Texas blue, America blue. You even have an America yellow. So it's possible America can be the yellow as well. And then maybe on the other side, oh, I'm sorry. It's not just Mexico, there's some Spain in there too. So this is Spain and Mexico. And then these Ravage tokens, just keep those off to the side. You definitely will be using those. These we're probably gonna be using these because Spain is actually in the game right now. These American and Texas ones, we may not, because obviously they're not in the game yet. One other thing, and GMT burns me with this all the time, or actually it was actually the D-Day games that, or no, Enemy Action Ardennes burned me with this, and then it happened here. When you're punching your pieces, they give you 2 sets of success chits. So this is one set, and you can see it's got like a dark brown. And this is another set. I'm sorry, they have the same color brown. This one has the white question mark, and the other ones have the cream colored question mark. This is just a spare set. So just toss it. Not in the garbage, of course, but it's a spare set. You only need 1 set for your game, and those go in a cup. So I made a mistake. I jumbled them all together, and I should have known better. Okay, one other area of the board, and that is the Rancheria Display. Rancheria is another word for settlement, and they are our settlements. So we have rancherias. Everybody else has either a settlement or what's called a tribe, of course, if it's the enemy, the north. So we're going to start the game with 1 rancheria. It's going to be the A rancheria, and they're just A, B, C, D, E. So it's possible to have more than 1 rancheria in the game. We only start with 1. We're going to start with 4 horses. We're going to start with 3, what these are called, these are bands. So basically think of these as our military, right? This is our warriors. They're going to be 3 strength 2 warriors, and a strength 2 warrior has 5 movement points, okay? That's how you read those. And the other side, the F just means it's finished. So after they finish their turn. So you're going to have 3 Strength 2 warriors not finished. And then you're going to have 1. Go ahead and pronounce this. All right. Mahi-Miana. Mahi-Miana? Mahi-Miana or Mahi-Mahi or Muhammad? I don't know. Mahi-Miana, maybe? Basically, he's your war leader. So we may call him Bob, just because Bob is easier to pronounce. All right, then we have, and no offense to anybody from that culture. I mean, if I pronounce it wrong the whole game, that's just as disrespectful in my eyes as calling him Bob. So I'm trying not to. And if somebody can give me a phonetical whatever, I will try my best. Okay, so next is the medicine men. All right, so they both start at Strength 2, and you have the same Bob, right? But what this represents is this is his strength, his medicine strength. Remember, he's your war leader. So this is a physical representation of him that goes on the map and does things. This is his strength while he's on the map doing things. Think of it that way. And then this is your Paraibo. Maybe I'm pronouncing that one correctly. And the Paraibo, think of him as your elder or your leader. So maybe there's a political leader and a military leader. Think of it that way. So your political leader also starts with a strength of 2. The higher the strength, the better, in almost every situation that I've seen so far. And then of course there's things that happen that make it go up and down, and that's part of what we're going to be doing, is manipulating this to go up and down. The rest of them are set up, but they're not in the game yet. So you can see here, this is Rancheria B, and it would have to go onto the map before we can start using these counters. Okay, I think, well, no, we got one more thing. Sorry, I keep thinking we're done and we got more. We're going to have to read these, but I'll do that when we start the gameplay. As I said, these are all the culture cards. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, there's 8 stacks of culture cards, level 1, level 2, level 3. I've never played before, so I can't tell you which ones are awesome, which ones aren't. I'm sure the designer will tell you they're all awesome. We get to take one of them for free. Every one after that, we have to spend culture points, which, remember, if we lose too many culture points, we could lose the game. But you're spending culture points to get more. The level 1 cards cost you 1 culture point, the level 2 costs 2, and I think the level 3 is going to cost 3. Yes. And then you can see here that there's requirements listed, and usually the requirement is just simply you need the level 1 card. Then the action that's impacted. So this is going to impact the warpath action. And then when you're taking the actions operation, it basically gives you a bonus that you could use for the rest of the game. So these can be powerful. So here's where I'm at with it. The game recommends taking Horsemanship, which gives you a +1 battle DRM for Comanche bands, which is us, if we have horses. And basically this is for when we're fighting the enemy. And sometimes we have to fight the enemy and we're defending our Rancheria from getting destroyed, which causes us to lose the game, by the way. It's very important, and getting the +1 DRM is very nice because you need to get a 6 after modifiers on your die roll in order to win a battle. And this is going to make it so you only need a 5, right? Because this is giving you +1. And so it is quite nice. And so I think the designer was recommending that we take this, and this is the one we use during the playbook. The rest of these, I have no idea. And then I can show you, like, the diplomacy one gives you Jack Diddley. So you take this card and it doesn't give you anything. This reminds me of brass. So like when you're building, what is it? Isn't it the port? Or no, it's the dock, the shipyard. That's what it is. So you have to like, you know, you have to just take a tech, which doesn't give you any bonus at all because you're trying to get to the level 2 and the level 3, which has, you know, something meaty for you. And that's what this is. So I don't know if I know enough about the game to tell you that this is a great first move to get this out of the way right now. So I'm tempted to just follow what the designer recommended. These warfare ones attract me because even though I'm not a warmonger, you know I like to play peacefully in most of my games. The thing that this does is actually quite helpful. And then the third one is trade. I think trading in this game is super powerful, and this is the only way I think you can get guns. And guns help you with everything, including your warmongering, and including giving you a bonus to your DRM. So why not get guns? We are America, after all. So I think that's the one I'm going to take. I'm going to take trade level 1, and let's see where that goes. All right, so I think we're ready to start the game. I will explain the rest there. And as always, thanks for watching, and stay awesome.